I want to show you, actually, in our prayers of the people today, there's that line, give to all nations an awareness of the unity of the human family. We're going to talk about something now because that line is amazing. Give an awareness to all the nations, the unity of the human family. So during this week, I don't know if anybody else heard, but the Trump administration launched tariffs. And those tariffs were directed at Mexico and Canada and increased tariffs against China. And Mexico responded and Canada responded. And in Canada, ours wasn't just a response to tariffs. We're going to tax this, and we're going to put a surcharge on that, and we're going to do all kinds of different things. As our prime minister said, this isn't what we wanted. We don't want to do this. But it was the American government that is making this happen. A couple days go by, Trump. I had conversations with President Sheinbaum, and I had conversation with Prime Minister Trudeau, and we've come to an agreement. So 30 days, but April 4th or April 2nd, April 2nd. Unless things change, we're going to be putting the tariffs on. Okay. Lots of confusion, lots of upheaval. Someone sent me this meme. What happens if the man labeled USA kicks the man labeled Canada? What happens here? What does gravity do? Because that board is laying across the steel girder perpendicularly, those two men, their weight is actually balancing the board. And if one of those men were to be kicked off or jump or move actually in any way, even if they return to center, that board's going the other side. That board's going to fall. And anybody still on the board is going with it. The meme speaks to us about the relationship between Canada and the United States. We are ridiculously interconnected and intertwined. We are two nations, and yet we also have deep, complex relationships, militarily, economically, financially, in every way, right? In every way, except for the fact that we are independent nations. We count on one another. We count on one another to keep one another safe. And yes, Canada is about the 10th the population of the United States, bigger landmass, but about a 10th the population of the United States. No, our GDP isn't near what the American GDP is. Our military isn't as big and as powerful as the U.S. government. Absolutely. But we're still a key member of this partnership. And if you are to boot Canada, like this meme sort of describes, the United States is going to feel it, and the people in the U.S. are going to feel it. This isn't the ranting of some priest in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Just about every respected economist understands this. But this meme actually, I think, speaks to something even greater. We're all connected. It doesn't matter where we are. We are not in this alone. We are in this together. We are not as individuals, as neighborhoods, as churches, as nations, as provinces, as whatever. We are not island empires unto ourselves. Whatever I do is going to impact you. Whatever you do will impact me. If I choose to do something, I'm taking my daughter to basketball. I'm going to go to Antigonish. We're going to drive to for some basketball games. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. But at the same time, my wife and my son are at home. They're not going with us, which means their lives are going to be impacted by our absence. And my life is going to be impacted by my wife's absence. There is always a consequence to our actions. The people around us will always suffer the consequence of our actions. We're not in this alone. And this mentality of this is best for us. No, it's not. In the long run, when we treat one another as though they are somehow disconnected from us, and we say to ourselves, you know what, I'm going to do this because this is absolutely the best thing for me, and I'm the one that matters. You got to look out for number one. You're harming number one in the long run. In the long run, you are harming number one. Someone recently sent me an email. Would you do a talk about forgiveness? And I am on Saturday. Tomorrow night we're going to talk about forgiveness a little bit from a different, hopefully from a different perspective. But even look at something like that. Look at some of the relationships that have been strained in your life because of politics, or because of economics, or because of human rights, whatever it happens to be. And we can say to ourselves, I can't be in that relationship. And I can say, I understand. But our absence does have an impact. And that person's absence has an impact on us. And if we continue to hold on to anger that we may have, if we continue to hold on to grief, if we continue to hold on to the sorrow, if we continue to hold on to the things that we have against that person, for the difficulty that they've caused, even when they are 150% responsible for it, that has an impact on us. Got to let it go. Right? Ain't none of us, what's the line? Ain't none of us getting out of here alive. And ain't none of us living this life alone. I understand there's a whole big fear about globalism. I don't understand where it comes from, apart from the conspiracies that I've heard. I don't get it, but I don't have to. If a butterfly in Brazil flaps its wings, you are going to feel it one day. There's no getting around it. You, your children, your grandchildren, they're going to feel it one day. We're not in this alone. If I take and take and take from the people around me, I may enrich myself today, but I'm going to feel it one day. By hurting them, by making their life more difficult, by causing them anxiety and issue, I'm going to feel it one day. By charging people, overcharging people for services, I'm going to feel, again, I might get rich on it, but I'm going to feel it one day, and it's not going to feel good. I'm going to experience the negative consequences for the harm that I've done others. And I'm not talking karma. I'm not talking that this is some kind of spiritual thing, though in fairness, it is that as well. It's practical. It is absolutely practical. And even if I get off scot-free, I never experience anything but the wealth of what I have, my kids will. And my grandkids will. My name will. My reputation will. How I'm remembered will. All of that is true. And from a spiritual perspective, if I am taking from the people around me, and I am taking more than I need, God will remember that too. Because I failed at that second really important commandment. I didn't love them as I would love myself. We are not living this life in isolation. We're not living this life in isolation. And when we harm people, we are harming ourselves. And when we take from people, we are taking from ourselves. And when we cause people pain, it is going to cause us pain. And that's on a micro level between individuals, and that is on a macro level between nations. What we do to others has a very physical, a very practical, a very spiritual, what we do to others has a very practical, physical, spiritual impact on us. There are consequences for us. You raise people up, good things happen for you. You knock them down, bad things happen. You take from people, bad. You give, good. I mean, that's kind of the whole premise between groups like organizations like USAID. It wasn't just about funding, I don't know, what's the fear-mongering one, a trans opera in Sclavobia. It's not that USAID went woke and they were spending all this crazy wokey attitudes. No, it's because they're trying to build up good. They're trying to build up positive vibes. They're trying to build positive relationships with others in other parts of the world. They're trying to earn brownie points. They're trying to gain for themselves some brownie points so that people like them, so that people like the United States, so that people don't want to destroy the United States, so that people don't want to attack the United States, so people aren't angry with the United States. It's about building up goodwill between countries, between communities. What we give, we will receive. What we take will be taken from us. I don't need to harm you to get ahead. In fairness, if I want to get ahead, the best thing I can do is lift you up. My country doesn't need to see the United States fail in order to be prosperous. As a matter of fact, we want the United States to be prosperous so that we can be prosperous. And in the same way, the United States doesn't need Mexico or Canada or anybody else to fail for it to be prosperous. Prosperity is achieved when everybody around you and all the nations around you have been lifted up and are experiencing abundance and booms. I don't need to kick you off the board. If I kick you off the board, I'm falling too. If you kick me off the board, you're falling too. How does that benefit any of us? Amen.